Kelly, I've got 5:30 on the clock. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The May 14th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting will now come to order. Kaylee, can we have roll call, please?
Rachel Bennett.
Here.
Larry Besco.
Here.
David Culbertson.
Here.
Mark McKechnie. EJ McManus.
Here.
Marcy Pierce. Jared Pulver.
Here.
Jeff Thomas.
Here.
Jim Wallen.
Here.
Roll has been taken.
Thank you. Tonight's agenda is available on the city's website for those watching from home. The order of business this evening will be consent calendar and written communications, the minutes, public hearings, and reports. Item 20 is the consent calendar written communications, and we do not have any items. Item 30 is the minutes. Have the commissioners reviewed the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting from April 23rd, 2026, and are there any additions or corrections? All right, they will stand as submitted. Item 40 is oral requests and communications from the audience. This is an opportunity for members from the audience to address the commission on matters that are not on today's agenda. If you wish to speak, please come forward to the podium, sign in, tell us your name and your concern. Tonight's public hearing will be conducted as a quasi-judicial hearing. If you plan to testify, oh, sorry. Did anyone want to come forward? I did not see anybody. I was supposed to pause. I did not. I apologize. Tonight's public hearing will be conducted as quasi-judicial hearing. If you plan to testify, please listen carefully to the following prepared statement regarding the procedural rules that govern these hearings. The statement will be read by Mr. Alan Moreland, Deputy City Attorney.
I'm going to explain the rules that govern these hearings. Before the hearing begins, city staff will give a report. The report will list the criteria that govern the city's decision. After the staff report, the hearing will be open for other speakers. The applicant will speak first and may ask for rebuttal time. Following the applicant, any other interested person will be allowed to speak. Any testimony, argument, or evidence you give must relate to the criteria listed in the staff report or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or land use regulations that you believe apply to the decision. If you fail to raise an issue or do not give the commission sufficient information so that the commission and any party can respond, you will not be able to appeal that issue to the Land Use Board of Appeals. If you do not raise constitutional or other issues about any proposed condition with specificity so that the commission can respond to that issue, you will not be able to bring a court action for damages. Before the hearing is closed, anyone who needs more time to present evidence may ask for more time. If you ask, the hearing will be continued or the record will be kept open, and you will have at least 7 days to present additional written evidence.
Thank you. In order to proceed through this evening's agenda in a timely manner, except at the Commission's request, applicants giving testimony tonight will be given 10 minutes to present their application. Individuals who have comments about the application will be given 3 minutes, or 5 minutes if you're representing a group or organization, and 5 minutes will be given to the applicant for rebuttal. Agenda item 50.1 ZC-26-096, proposal for a zone change from SFR 00 to CH of a single vacant parcel totaling approximately 22.62 acres. The property is within the Urban Planning Unit, MD6C, and is located at the intersection of South Stage Road and Reed Lane. The applicant is Mike Malepsy. The agent is Richard Stevens and Associates, and the planner is Dustin Sievers. Does any commissioner have any conflict of interest or ex parte contact to disclose regarding this application? Does anyone in the audience wish to question the commission on conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts? All right. Can we have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Dustin Sievers with the Planning Department. Our first and only item, we're calling this the Malepsy zone change. This is a zone change from SFR 00 to heavy commercial. We have one new exhibit to include in the record that is at your table. I do apologize for not getting this into the report. I didn't notice it until this morning, actually. This is the executive summary from the traffic impact analysis. Of course, it was discussed in the report by the Public Works Department. We always like to at least get you that executive summary. So we'll add this into the record and get this into the commission report. The criteria for a zone change are found in section 10.204 of the Medford Land Development Code, included on the screen, and we should have some hard copies of the front entrance for those in attendance. Begin by looking at our project summary. So the site consists of a single parcel, totals approximately 22.62 acres. There is a single family home at the southwest corner is pretty much in a state of disrepair. It isn't the intent to demolish. I believe they have plans to do that fairly soon. So the site is fronted by South Stage Road. South Stage Road is classified as a minor arterial street. And for access to the site for the existing home is effectively a driveway. I believe it's called Reed Lane. It also serves as vehicular access for a few parcels which abut the property to the west. Look at the surrounding area. This property is on the edge of city limits. To the west, you have EFU Active Agriculture located in Jackson County. And to the north, you have Harry and David and some other industrial uses. The Harry and David is within our urban growth boundary. It has an industrial glut designation, however, it is outside of city limits. Here's an image of the subject site looking north up Reed Lane. The general land use plan designation for the site is commercial. Its underlying zoning as SFR 00, which is the holding zone we apply to properties when they're annexed in the city and have yet to be tested for facility adequacy. That is something we do with the zone change, which is what we're doing tonight. The property is located within our frequent transit corridor, and the proposal is to go from SFR 00 to heavy commercial, and by going to heavy commercial will be compatible with the GLUP designation, which was established with the approval of the urbanization plan and the annexation of the property last year by City Council. So going back to that urbanization plan, so in March of 2025, City Council did approve MD 6C. This is for the subject property as well as a couple other parcels immediately to the west, which are not part of this application, the zone change. So as you can see, there was no open space requirement. There's no minimum residential density requirements either. However, it is my understanding is the intent for the applicant for this property to be predominantly multifamily apartments. However, they do want to leave it open to potentially do some commercial as well. I think the reason for the heavy commercial zoning is that we do have the industrial abutting the property in the north at the Harry and David, so it's a little more compatible with the surrounding area. No higher order streets will be developed with the urbanization plan. However, you do see a couple commercial streets, one running north and south and one east-west. And you can also see that we have some environmental issues that have been dealt with at the time of development. There's some irrigation canals. There's also actually several spots of wetlands located on the property. Looking at the general land use plan, the commercial does allow for the full gamut of all our commercial zones. The applicant is requesting the heavy commercial zone, which is included in the commercial GLUP. Heavy commercial is heavy commercial developments are allowed along highways, and as you know, all our commercial zones allow for multifamily residential to MFR 30 standards. Was a traffic impact analysis which was submitted with the application. It set a trip cap of 265 p.m. peak hour trips. So with the future development of the site, the applicant will be required to submit a trip accounting with each future development. Also some unique situations with the storm drainage on the site, which is addressed in the Public Works Department report. So between those two, we have added, we will designate the area with a restrictive zone and administrative mapping category. So the applicant will be required within 30 days of the final order to provide a restrictive covenant, which will be reviewed by our city attorney's office. And the restrictive zoning will be applied to the site until all those matters are satisfied. Right into our findings and recommendation. So looking at our findings, the commission can find all three criteria are satisfied. Regarding criterion 1, the property, the CH zone is allowed in our CM GLUP map designation area. As far as our locational criteria, the only one that is applicable is a CH is required to abut an arterial street, and it does abut the South Stage Road. And regarding criterion number 3, the commission can find that all the utilities will be adequate at the time of development or with the imposition of conditions of approval which will be applied to the zone change. So with that, we ask that you adopt the findings recommended by staff. We're also asking that you adopt the final order. As for the approval of ZC 26-096 per the staff report dated May 7th. That includes exhibits A through O being our new exhibit, which is the executive summary for the traffic impact analysis. With that, I can take questions. We'll also have Mr. Doug Burrows from Public Works Department here, and we also have Mr. Clark Stevens, who is the applicant's agent in attendance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does any commission member have questions of, yes, Commissioner Thomas?
So a lot of this is just me probably not understanding. I don't want to get into the whole commercial when we're not building commercial. That's an argument for another day. But my concern is, and maybe other people got the executive summary emailed to them, I didn't. Did anybody else get
No,
this?
I did not email it.
So the question that I have is that we did a trip study based on changing this zoning to heavy commercial, correct?
Yes.
Okay, when that's not what we're building there. So, and it's probably fine, but is there been an analysis of actually what the study would say if we said we're building X amount of apartments?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and you're right, we don't know for sure. They have stated that is their intent to do multifamily, however, they may do some other stuff as well, they're leaving that open. As far as that specific question, I'll defer to Mr. Doug Burrows to answer that question.
Because, and I'm sure it's fine,
Yeah,
but it seems kind of like it's a shell game, and it's just, it drives me crazy. It's either, are we building residential family homes or multifamily homes? Or are we building, when I think of heavy commercial, I think of there'd be a lot, actually less use as far as traffic than there would be in certain, but that's another question. Then the second question I have, so I'm not sure how we deal with that, but the second question I have is when you read the report about the facilities are going to be adequate for that zone. If we're building X amount of units, is it?
yeah.
And see, and so now we're going to go ahead and vote to approve a zone change when we all know, I guess we just cover our ears and our eyes, no, that's not what's going to be built there. And so the reports that we're looking at probably aren't even, they don't even apply to what we're actually looking at. I could be wrong, and I hope that you say, no, these facilities would cover that as well, but if they don't, I don't know how we approve this.
That may be the case again. I'm gonna let Mr. Burrows answer that question so I don't get it wrong.
But that's my questions. I hope there's some answers to them.
Mr. Burrows, I think you were called to the podium.
Good evening, Chair, fellow commissioners. Doug Burrows, Public Works. So first of all, I don't know what kind of trips multifamily is going to generate. It's probably less, but I don't know for sure. The reality is they're trying to change to a zone that matches the GLUP. So, they could do multifamily there. As far as I know, that's allowed in that zoning. They could do anything that's allowed in that zoning. What we do know from the traffic study is that they're capped at a certain amount of trips, no matter what goes in there. So they could be planning multifamily today, and the two, 60-something trips that they have might work, might limit them, hard to say. And then that might fall apart, sometimes that happens. And then another project might come in and maybe they're going to build actual industrial stuff there or commercial stuff there. So they'll still be under the same trip cap. So I get the curiosity about the use and what's actually going to happen and the concern. And Jeff, I understand your concern about getting one zone, but if it allows another use, it allows another use. We as staff can't change that. But as far as whether the 260 is going to work for multifamily, that's up to the developer to decide if it works or not. If they want more, they're going to have to do another TIA. And I think they limited it at the 260 because of mitigation that started to pop up at Kings Highway and Garfield, right? So they say, well, I might have Clark answer this question because I think he might be better suited for it. They probably figured the 260 PM peak was going to work for what they want to do, so they limited the traffic study to that so they wouldn't have to do any other things, any other mitigation items beyond that. Otherwise, what would be the point of doing the trip cap? They're the ones that proposed the cap. We just agreed with it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but whether it works for what they want to do, that I'll let Clark address that question.
Okay, so that answers that, because
Yeah.
and then the second one is it the same idea when it comes to the report saying that, it can handle, the infrastructure can be handled. Is it based on zone or based on what's going to go there?
Oh, well,
See, that.
well, we talked about streets, that's the
Yeah.
traffic part. The other part's sewer, which is RVS, so we didn't talk about that. The next part's storm, whether it's commercial or multifamily, it doesn't matter. They got to hold their stormwater and they have to release it at a rate that basically mimics what's happening now. So whatever you build there, it doesn't matter. It's really kind of more impervious area and, and how they design their system versus like, oh, are there people living there and that's their parking lot, or is it a commercial use and that's their parking lot? So that's not as relevant to that. Now, water could be different, and I can't speak to that. So anyway, I hope that helps.
Yeah, it's more
I mean, yeah,
more of the water.
yeah. Okay, sounds good. Any other questions for
Any
Public
other
Works?
commissioners? Oh, Commissioner Besco.
Yeah, that's,
For Dustin or for Doug?
pardon?
Who would you like, Dustin or Doug?
Actually, Doug.
Okay.
If I could just follow up on Commissioner Thomas's question about, at the 265 trip cap, once they go over that, do you know what improvements would be triggered at this point in the game?
I only know because I think I read something that said there was something showing up at Garfield and Kings Highway.
Okay, so that may need
I
to
don't
be
know
signalized.
I don't know if it triggered a signal warrant or some
Okay.
other improvement. I have no idea.
Okay.
But some reason, they look at this and they go, oh, we're starting to fail level of service in these intersections. Where we bring it back down to a point that it doesn't do that, does that number work for what we want to do, or at least for part of it? So I don't know exactly, but I did read that somewhere in the packet or the summary or somewhere
Okay.
that was popping up. So
All right.
sometimes we don't know for sure because they do the study, then they propose a trip cap and we go, okay, yeah, we're good with that. So
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other commissioners have questions of staff? Yes, Commissioner Pulver.
Sorry, we're all jumping on the Jeff bandwagon, but in relation to some of the other services, I guess, just a curiosity question, but for water or for sewer, when you're evaluating a zone change, it's really like, hey, we can provide water to this site, right? I mean, because you don't know, even if it's commercial uses, you don't know the need until the individual projects show up. Is that right?
No,
or-
and I don't know how they determine water capacity. I mean, sewer, you make some assumptions based on the zoning and some worst-case scenarios. Again, it's not our sewer, line, so I don't know. Assume it's okay. I don't recall seeing anything from RVS. The water, I did actually read their comments, and they said they have capacity. It's just a long ways away. They have to pipe it in to get to the site. So I don't know what kind of flows they base any of that stuff on, though.
So they're making assumptions, though, sort of based on the zoning.
What else can they, I don't know what else they base it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's all they can base it on.
Right.
It's probably same, I think sewer, we have some basic numbers for the types of zoning and what kind of flows are expected, so
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
you're welcome.
Any other commissioners have questions of staff?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll open the public hearing, and can we please hear from the applicant or their agent?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, for the record, my name's Clark Stevens with Richard Stevens and Associates. We're located at 244 South Grape Street here in Medford, Oregon, representing the applicant, Mr. Malepsy, in this change of zoning from SFR 0 to heavy commercial. As staff has presented, we are in compliance with section 10.204 in that we're consistent with the commercial designation for the heavy commercial zoning. In regards to public facilities, we are adequate with the trip cap stipulation, and I'll jump on the bandwagon with that now. We have a concept planned right now which is predominantly multiple family. We also have commercial proposed within this project. When we do a concept plan, the traffic engineer needs a number of potential dwelling units. In this case, we have X number, and then we add like 5% above that to create a buffer for any differences or changes of use between now and the development plan. As many projects come before you, especially within the urban reserve, you're seeing a lot of amendments to plans because plans change. So we add a little buffer to that. So the 265 was a stipulated number that we proposed that also didn't trigger any impacts upon Kings Highway and the Garfield intersection, which is close to a failing situation at this time. Another intersection of concern is Garfield and Highway 99. That's also getting close to needing additional improvements. So what we're proposing is going to be under that threshold to trigger those off-site improvements for traffic. We do have some mitigation proposed, some additional or changing of stop signs along South Stage Road at Columbus, I believe, and also that we're going to do a left turn lane into the project along Reed Lane. So the 265 is to minimize that to the point where we don't have to do it. Now, if we exceed that number, because we got to do a tally for traffic or public works of where we're at as we progress through this project and the development. When we trigger or exceed that 265, we are automatically doing another traffic study, and it's coming back before you to look at again to either amend the change of zoning or amend that stipulation that's a condition in this report. So this report is solid and you can live to it, and this is your guarantee that it'll come back before the city. In regards to the water, there is a 12-inch line along South Stage Road at the railroad tracks. Yes, it's a long ways to extend, but we've had numerous meetings with Medford Water Commission and the fire department to ensure that we can have sufficient water and enough pressure for hydrants and two-story commercial buildings, or there'll be vaults or these other things. So fire department actually deferred a lot of their comments until the development plan so they can see and comment of what would be required. But I believe there was 60 pounds of pressure within that Medford Water Commission line. It'll be a 12-inch, so it is a main line serving this area. And Medford Water and the fire are comfortable with what our zoning is proposed here today. Sanitary sewer, yeah, we acquired a new easement through Harry and David, so we can extend a gravity line through that property to tie into their main line that gets into Starlight and also then back to 99 and to their main trunk line along Bear Creek. So we made sure we can gravity flow all of our sanitary sewer to the north and not have any problems. So Rogue Valley Sewer has demonstrated that we have sufficient capacity to do so. Stormwater, that's always a fun one. And we're in agreement with the condition of approval. And we're currently doing the wetland studies. And that's also a fun process to go through. So that's still in process. That's why we don't necessarily have a full development plan, because we got mitigation we're going to do on site. All we have is a concept of how many dwelling or potential dwelling units and how many square feet of commercial we're proposing at this time. So again, we've reviewed the conditions, staff's recommendation we're in agreement with, and with that, I will conclude and be happy to answer any further questions.
Okay. Any commission members have questions of the applicant? Okay. Reserve time for rebuttal.
Yes, please.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Are there any persons in the audience that would like to speak regarding this application? If you'd like to speak, please come forward to the podium, sign in legibly. If you have not already done so, give us your name and address and offer us your testimony for the commission. And if you haven't already signed in, feel free to sign in after you speak. There should be a little.
Right here?
Yeah, but you can sign in after you speak.
Good evening. My name's Aaron Olson. I reside at 2414 Starlight Lane, just to the right of the boundary there on the map. I have a few questions, but mainly just expressing some sentiment that myself and my neighbors share. What's really infuriating about this is we all know the primary use is going to be multifamily, and the proposal is using the guise of heavy commercial to utilize that secondary use. To Jeff's point, this happens over and over and over. Like, why don't we just designate it, call a spade what is a spade, what it is? It's multifamily. That's what it's going to be. Why are we bouncing around heavy commercial just to allow what they want? So my questions are, I noticed on the previous slides for heavy commercial, there's no open space requirement. I don't know if that table was accurate or not. But my question is, are there perimeter setbacks in place that they will be required to comply with? Even though we're designated as heavy commercial, it's still going to be a primary multifamily use. Are those requirements within the multifamily zoning district going to be applicable even though it's in CH? What are those? What's the maximum density that's going to be allowed as a secondary use, and what's the maximum building height? If there's no open space requirements, there's a ton of wetlands on that site. I would hope there's some buffer required for those for the sake of the wildlife out there, but just irritated that we're just not calling it what it is. So that's all I have to say. And if I could have some answers on those questions, that'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Olson. Does anyone else in the audience wish to come forward and speak on this application? Please do so. Yeah, you can sign in. Go ahead and lower the boom a little bit and give us your name and your address.
My name's Lori Barnes. Whoops. I live at 2428 Starlight Lane. I just had a question. I asked this earlier, and I don't know if we're to the point yet, of about our wells. Do we know yet what the impact is going to be on our wells? Because we're all on wells on Starlight Lane when this goes in. And certainly the irrigation, because we flood every year. And somehow the topography on the west is changing, and we're really flooding now. So those are my two concerns right now.
Okay,
My questions.
thank you. I'll see if they can address those. All right, anyone else wish to come forward and speak on this application?
My name is Elena Broadway. I'm at 2400 Starlight Lane. And one thing I did not hear addressed on traffic was the intersection of South Stage and South Pacific Highway. Us on Starlight Lane frequently have troubles getting out of our driveways to make that left-hand turn onto South Stage as it is. Back when the church in the Applegate was a lot busier, there were days it would felt like forever to get out of our road onto South Stage. So even just the 265 or something seems like a lot more traffic if any percentage of them is coming our direction instead of all heading down to Kings Highway. When she was talking about the flooding, I think she's meaning we're having issues because she'd mentioned irrigation, because we're all on irrigation as well, but we have had flooding issues in our neighborhood that have really gotten bad in the last 2 years. We're not sure why, but we've had water running down our street. It comes diagonally across that property, and it comes in right about halfway down the street, and then, the subject property comes about halfway down our street, and then it comes straight down the side of the road to where their driveways have been flooded almost perpetually for the last 2 years, which is not this new development, but something's been happening that's changed the water flow. And I did talk to somebody who said that that's just the way the drainage is, but I've been there for 35 years, and the last 2 years have definitely been different than all the other years I've lived there. So like them, we're concerned, especially if it's multifamily housing, how much more traffic, how tall the buildings are going to be, how it's going to influence the neighborhood, because the rest of the neighborhood is not so densely populated. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to come forward and speak on this application? I'm not seeing anybody else come forward. All right. Does staff have any additional comments?
My best to try to answer some of the questions. So in terms of density, the zone heavy commercial allows for multifamily to MFR 30 standards. So the answer is 30 units per acre is what would be allowed in terms of density. Same with the bulk standards. Height, lot coverage is based on that zone. So there is a maximum height of 55 feet for multifamily. 35 feet is what is allowed in single family. Now, typically, there's a reduction of 35 feet when it's within 150 feet of a residential zone. In this case, these properties, even though we have single-family homes, they don't have a zoning because they're outside of the city. Same with the buffering requirements. However, when it does go through the Site Plan and Architectural Commission, which it does, they do have some discretion to require some buffering if they feel like it's necessary. And they can also address issues in terms of bulk standards as well. I believe I answered those questions. Stormwater, I can't speak a whole lot to that. Did you have anything on stormwater? Some of the comments, Doug? Hate to put you on the spot, but was that? Yeah, there wasn't any open space requirements with the urbanization plan, was my understanding. It typically is, in this particular case, there was not.
Evening, Chair, fellow commissioners, Doug Burrows again with Public Works. Yeah, the flooding is interesting. I don't know why it would be worse in the last couple of years, other than right now the water drains essentially northeast. We understand it to go through the Bear Creek Corporation property. It's a private system. It's not a city system, so we don't know how that's maintained. If there's maybe some issues with that, if it goes through a pipe system, that may be causing some flooding. It's kind of hard to tell. All I can say is this development will be required to control their stormwater runoff, not let it just drain onto the neighbor's property without it being controlled in a stormwater facility. So I can't speak to that. As far as traffic, I mean, anything that goes here is going to generate more traffic. So the 265 PM peak trips is going to be their limit. Its specific impact on this intersection right here, I doubt that TIA analyzed that specific intersection. They generally stick to the higher order street intersections to see the impacts on those. That's traditionally what they do. I was looking through the summary, though. It talked about county jurisdiction intersections in city, and it looks like they were all deemed to be working within the right percentile. So, yeah, obviously there'll be more traffic out there. That just kind of goes without saying, I think. How long or what that's going to mean to the folks that live on that street, I can't say for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Does any commission member have any additional questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Besco.
If I may ask, actually, my question is for Dustin.
Oh,
Thank you. I was, you mentioned that there would be buffering requirement. There was a question about what the setback, what the minimum setback would be. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, so I just defer to Kelly a little bit, like, make sure, it's confusion in the past, and when you have a multifamily in a commercial zone, to clarify, actually, the bulk standards, the development standards is based on the underlying zone, which is the heavy commercial. So we're looking at the heavy commercial zone as far as our setbacks and lot coverage. So the setback for heavy commercial is you have 10 feet in the front, and then the side and rear is based on the height. So there is no setback. It's on up to 20 feet, and over 20 feet is a half foot for each foot in building height over 20 feet. And also I want to mention height. I mentioned 55 feet. That's not correct. The heavy commercial zone does allow for 85 feet. However, there is a restriction on if it's 35 feet within 150 feet of a residential zone. So we have this unique situation with as a single-family residential, but they don't have zoning because they're outside the county. So again, it's going to come down to the discretion of the SPAC as far as like buffering and stuff of that nature. That could be determined at that time.
That sounds complicated.
Maybe I made it complicated.
All right, thank you very much, Dustin.
Yes, Commissioner Pulver.
So kind of similar issue, but I feel like I know, maybe I don't, but when commercial abuts residential normally, right, all within the city, then there's like the whole issue of walls and landscape and whatever else, but because it's county residential, it would again fall back to discretion of SPAC? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. This is based on zone and zone or GLUP to GLUP, and so if it's not in our urban growth boundary, then in that case, yeah, it does come down to discretion of SPAC.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Bennett.
This may be a question for the applicant or his agent, but let me pose it to you first. Despite the increased height restriction allowance for multifamily residential in a commercial zone, it would be unlikely they would build any multifamily residential higher than, say, 3 stories, correct?
That's typically what we see. They could
Is it
go
above
higher.
3 stories, you need an elevator? Is that fair?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not positive on that, but yeah.
I don't want to traffic in conjecture, but for practical application and like real world
Yeah.
scenarios, it's unlikely we're going to have something built to the maximum height.
Sure.
Simply because of the market and knowledge of history. Yes?
Sure. And again, I just want to be clear that the height, I was wrong initially when I said 55 feet. It's 85 feet is the underlying zone, which is heavy commercial. As to whether or not the Site Plan Architectural Commission has the authority to require something shorter than that, I'm not sure. I know in the past they have required buffering, but I can't speak. Perhaps she's got her light on, so maybe she can speak to it. That's a tough one.
So Kelly Aiken from your planning department. No, they cannot. That's one of the state limitations. You can't limit height for residential development. What I can say is that the adjoining property to the east is zoned rural residential, which is a residential zone. So staff would absolutely recommend the buffer like we normally would. The open space requirement, I think Mr. Stevens said that they're working on a wetland delineation. That's a pretty significant amount of wetland in that area. I would assume that some of that will be retained on site, so there will be some open space. Clark, if you can talk about that a little bit in rebuttal, I think that would be useful. What's anticipated there. The last comment I wanted to make is about, to Commissioner Thomas's point about what's to be built there. So the current version of our land development code was adopted in 1987, so it's been around for a minute. And since that time, and maybe even before, maybe even in the 66 code, you've been able to building multifamily development in commercial zones has been permissible. So this is a long-standing policy for the city. And I understand your question about, it feels like bait and switch. It isn't. It's a permitted use in the zone. So I don't. And if that's not, if this commission thinks that that's not a good policy, then I think that that's a discussion for this body to have with our city council. But that's been a long-standing policy for the city. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas.
So some of the questions I have, just for clarity, is there's no height restrictions up to 85 feet, and you could build up to 85 feet. My bigger concern isn't the residential that's next to it. My bigger concern is that on this commission, we have some people that are huge advocates for more housing, more affordable housing, and making sure that when we build those things, that the community, they become part of the community as well. What we're doing when we put it, and I agree with Kelly, this isn't necessarily the developer's issue, but it is our issue as a commission. So there's going to be mitigation certainly with the wetlands to use it as open space. But when we're building a community like this, I would think that we'd want, as Commissioner Bennett has, very articulately said over and over again, we need to make sure we have open space for the community that's living there as well. Also, and I wasn't addressed, and I know the answer, I think, is that we spend a lot of time at SPAC and as well as this commission about making sure we have connectivity, that we have walking paths. There's no requirement for that in heavy commercial, or unless I'm wrong.
It depends on the type of development. So, I mean, we have a big box ordinance that requires pedestrian facilities. So this, it's really difficult to answer those questions without seeing the next step of development. Because remember, at this point, all we're doing is we're looking at facility adequacy. Is there water, sewer, street, and storm drain available to serve this property at the time of vertical development? That is the question that's before you tonight. So it's really hard to answer those questions without seeing what's next.
But does heavy commercial, no matter what you build in there, do they have the same requirements for that kind of connectivity or not?
For connectivity, yes, they do. For our block length ordinance requires, it has limitations on block length and perimeters. That's at 10.426. We talk about that all the time. And along with your public street connections are public pedestrian and, alternate multimodal facilities availability as well. So I think that they're covered. It's just, it feels different than our residential zones, but the standards are the same.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Does anyone else on the commission have questions of staff or council? Oh, Commissioner McManus.
Just to follow up, Kelly, since you talked about this being a longstanding policy, based on the history of a lot of these being converted to heavy commercial, knowing that I think even the applicant mentioned that, development could change, right? All of this movement with whatever's permitted use in this new zone, I mean, we don't have a picture, but we have the conditions so that at any moment, I'm assuming, if there is going to be a pivot on more residential or more commercial, those conditions still put the kind of that check and balance. Has that been somewhat of that history of at least seeing the long-standing policy in this manner, if that makes any sense?
Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. So it sounds like you're asking where we've seen this before, the development that's limited by some kind of a facility adequacy, how it develops out over time. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure that, knowing that if this has been a long-standing policy, that this has triggered developments that go into different pivots, and that it has been effective when those triggers are identified.
We've been very diligent about managing the limitations, and then we've seen a number of projects over the years where that has been the case. So we're diligent about that. As far as the uses go, in this case, the trip cap is blind to the type of development. It's only concerned about the trips. Is that kind of where you were going?
Yeah, and I totally forgot about that. So, no, good point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the commission have questions of staff or council? All right. Could we please have some rebuttal time?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name is Clark Stevens. And I'd like to address Mr. Olson's comment first in regards to setbacks. And Mr. Malepsy is in attendance and is listening and heard comments and the concerns. And when we revise our concept plan, we will definitely make additional above and beyond setback requirements along that Starlight neighborhood. So we're strictly in, I can't even say in design, we're just in concept and what we're looking at. So it's a very easy proposal that we can put before SPAC commission. In regards to the wells, yes, she's mentioned this before. That is a water master's office, and we're not going to be drawing any water out of the soil or out of the ground to disrupt the wells. So I don't believe that this project will have any adverse impacts to existing wells in the neighborhood. Typically, those are from fractures and they're coming from below, coming up versus surface going down. And as far as Ms. Broadway's comments in regards to additional traffic, traffic studies have to, I believe it's not just higher order streets, but we look at all the local streets and intersections. South Stage Road is a higher order street, so we have to analyze that and look at all the safety issues along those corridors. Typically, the problem areas are at major intersections with collectors and arterials. That's where you see the problems of traffic safety or congestion. In regards to flooding in the neighborhood, as the neighbors have testified, there's nothing going on out here that if the applicant hasn't changed or plowed or ripped the soil, but our project will have to retain 100% of the stormwater on site. We will have to direct it to drainage that's bisecting the subject site. And I don't have the numbers, but I'm hoping somebody with good eyes can read that in there. But I believe it was like 7 acres of the site designated as wetlands, if you can zoom that in. But you can see the crosshatch area. That is from the southwest to the northeast. That is a drainage channel. And if you've driven along South Stage Road, that is a significant wetland. That entire strip will be preserved as an open space area. Those other crosshatches outside of that, those will have to be mitigated. So those will be located inside or adjacent to that strip bisecting the subject property to have an open space area. So there is going to be significant open space because of the existing wetlands, with this development. Again, that's why we only have a concept plan in hand and in mind, because until DSL puts their stamp on that paperwork, we don't know exactly where the wetland boundary is. But we do have X number of acres, which is significant for this site. When no open space is required, we will have open space. It's just going to be mandatory by DSL. So again, with any apartments that we propose, there's going to be livability, open space, wildlife will still be able to utilize it. Also about trails and bike paths, South Stage Road is part of the Parks and Leisure plan for that pedestrian bike path, multimodal paths through there. So, and as Kelly has mentioned, all the public roads will have multimodal traffic on that. So with that, I will conclude, and I guess if there's any other further questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Besco?
I think if I understand correctly, Mr. Clark, when this does get developed, whatever they develop in there, the south stage will probably be improved?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
So there'll be
minor
improvements on
arterial.
South Stage Road. He'll have curb and gutter and sidewalk and all of that. All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, full-blown dedication, ag buffer, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. No further questions. We'll close the public hearing.
Thank you.
And is there a motion for recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the findings as recommended by staff and adopt the final order of approval for ZC 26096 per the staff report dated May 7, 2026, including Exhibits A through O.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes, Commissioner Pulver.
I'm going to be voting yes. I think staff's evidence that the criteria have been met, and I think it's been discussed at length what the criteria is for the zone change itself. But I did want to highlight for the residents that showed up, I encourage them heavily to show up at SPAC when they're noticed of that, because as I think was discussed, there are some levers that SPAC can pull, or discussion that can be had that is in their purview that is not in ours. So, you know, your time here is not time wasted, and time at that venue would be good. So,
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, Kaylee, can we have a roll call, please?
Jim Wallen,
Yes.
EJ McManus,
Yes.
Larry Besco,
Yes.
Rachel Bennett,
Yes?
Jared Pulver,
yes.
Jeff Thomas,
Yes.
David Culbertson.
Yes.
We have 7 yeses.
All right, good luck with your project. That concludes tonight's public hearing. Item 60 is presentation of reports. 60.1, transportation, Commissioner Pulver.
Yeah, we haven't met since our last meeting.
Okay. 60.2, site plan and architecture, Commissioner Thomas.
We did meet, but we had 2 items continued, and we'll be meeting tomorrow, so.
Oh, and one of them is going to be fantastic. Item 60.3, planning department.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. I am Kelly Aiken. A couple of things coming up for you. First, your next study session is Memorial Day, so we will not have business that day. Thank you for adopting final order tonight. We can cancel your May 28th meeting, so we'll give you a pass. We do have business scheduled for both your June meetings, that's June 11 and 25, and then also July 9. So we're scheduled out a bit for you. City Council, last week, they adopted the child care code amendments, so that was resolved. They also approved or adopted the economic opportunity analysis into our comprehensive plan. So that project has been completed, which is great. Up next week at City Council, we have the action plan for the 2026-27 Community Development Block Grant Program. So they're working on that. That's something that gets to be done every year. At City Council last night, they had a study session. They heard from Cindy Robert, who is our state lobbyist, telling us some of the legislation that's moving through the system, or moved through the system last session. They had a training information on an urban renewal 101 from Elaine Howard, who was our consultant. We're talking about Mura 2.0. So that was interesting. I learned stuff that I didn't know. And they also talked a little bit about decorum in meetings, and I shared with you some suggested language that may be used when we have some difficult situations in chambers. Also coming up, I want to keep you apprised of this because it will affect you. In June, at the June study session for council, they're going to start talking about the downtown plan code amendments and also the climate-friendly area for downtown. And then also on the docket for that day right now is the Senate Bill 1537. That's the one-time UGB expansion that's permissible. So that's what we're working on, and a bazillion other things. So I think that's all for me, unless you have questions.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner Thomas.
So I have a couple questions about just, so from my studying, I guess. So kind of like what we dealt with tonight, obviously, there was no other way to vote other than yes, and we should vote yes. I'm not saying that. But I get concerned about like when there's a urban growth boundary extension and then there's a GLUP, and there was a lot of thought put into the fact to make that zoned a certain way. And in this case, this may not apply to it. Do we land swap later? I mean, if we say we need X amount of industrial zoning to be able to grow over the next 50 years, and then we build something that's not what that was for, do we swap it?
Could be.
Or can we not swap it because it's more difficult because you can't build industrial, heavy industrial into something that's zoned SFR4?
Right. So that's an excellent question. So that's one of the, part of the analysis that we do when we have a GLUP map amendment before you, that, is to see what, if there's a surplus or a,
Deficit.
thank you, that word was way over there somewhere, a deficit of that particular land category. And it's really important that we keep track of that, and we do keep track of that. We also keep track of our density requirements, how the amount of number of units that we're required to hit in order to meet our RPS obligation. So, so yes, there is definitely an analysis of that, and you see that when we bring the GLUP map amendments to you. So yes, as far as the urban growth boundary, the expansion areas in particular, we haven't seen a lot of changes out of the GLUPs that were approved. We've seen them moved around a little bit on the properties within the urban planning. In the words are not coming for each of the MD areas. We've seen some of the GLUPs move around, but we haven't seen land swaps that are significant at all.
And then the last question I'll have for you is, like, you were saying that we've been doing this particular policy since, did you say 87?
Yeah, our current code was adopted in 1987.
I'm really, really, really old. And in 87, I was a freshman in college, living my best life, peaking, and it's all been downhill since. So I wonder, and I know it's probably not for us to trigger, but it'd be interesting to have a study session or several of them to say, Jeff, you're crazy. This has only happened 9 times in 40 years, so don't worry about it. But I do get concerned about, I want multifamily housing. I want more available and affordable housing. I get concerned that because of the way this policy is, now we can have, and I'd be doing the same thing. I'm not blaming developers, but I'll zone that heavy commercial, and I won't actually build a community with multifamily homes. I'll just build, I don't have to worry about open space, I don't have to worry about setbacks, I don't have to worry about height, and then it doesn't become part of the community that we're trying to get. So I would strongly urge the city council to look at it and maybe, because if we want to encourage our community to be a community, we don't want to build housing that is just basically what they used to do in other places that we don't want to do.
Yeah, housing with no services near it.
Exactly.
Sure. So I think one of the benefits and one of the purposes of allowing multifamily and commercial zones is to allow the housing to be built where the services are. And love it or hate it, that's the Northgate Apartments is a really good example of that. So, so I totally understand what you're saying, and we hear you. This would be a really excellent topic for your joint session in September.
So,
Yes, Commissioner Polver.
sorry, I was going to say this for later, but we started down this path. So, so I guess one, I think we're going to see a lot more of it too, because I think with the urban growth boundary expansion, like there was just commercial thrown everywhere, and whether we think it's realistic or not, like the little small communities that exist within the bigger community that are self-sufficient isn't terribly realistic. Like it's hard to get all the services a little pocket of the community might need, and so inherently it's just hard to support real commercial in all those pockets. So I think there's more of it coming, whether it's good or bad. And I guess I agree with both of you. I think it's a good council discussion. I think it's on the short list of things to discuss. I got called into a subcommittee something or other meeting this morning at the mayor's request, trying to talk about like building issues, that the builders are having, I guess, with city staff, not specifically, but just like efficiencies and what roadblocks are there and how can everybody work together to get rid of them or whatever. But the density requirement issue was an interesting one that the planning director, Michelle brought up, because I think she has a lot of sensitivity to that and the state requirements. I guess I don't have as much, but I think that, or at least amongst staff, that's a real concern. I guess I'm of the opinion that like we should build whatever housing the demand is there for, and if we fall short, we tell the state we're sorry. Would you rather have some or none? But I think this is a tool, because I think if I heard Michelle correctly this morning, what she said was it's not so much that we have to build to the standard, we have to show that we have enough land to meet the density number. And so this is one of those things where I think we're probably, if we're really looking at it, we're really not building to the density unit requirement that they want within residential zones. But then when you throw in the MFR that we're getting out of our commercial zones, it helps us kind of get there. So anyway, it's an interesting conversation, because I guess there's a lot of things as this body is well familiar with that we don't like that are coming from the state, and this is some of that, and it's just interesting. It's interesting how all the pieces fit together. So I think it's good discussion.
Okay. Commissioner Bennett.
Kelly, can you just remind me, the UGB, the one-time UGB expansion coming out of that Senate bill, that's for specific uses, yes?
It's for, I believe it's for, it's been a minute. I believe it's for residential, and I think that there has to be an
Elderly or
I think,
like a certain population?
Or some affordability component.
Okay.
I don't recall the.
I don't remember if there was one that was like for manufactured housing or, yeah. So
Yeah, I
was
think
just-
there's one floating around right now that's specific to senior, but I think 1537 is specific to affordable, and it's limited. I think it's only 50 acres. It's a small,
Yeah,
relatively small expansion.
thank you. I've been juggling a lot of legislative tracks, and I wanted to make sure I was keyed in on the right one. So
Yeah.
thank you.
There's a lot.
All right.
That's it. That's for me. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you. Item 70 is, I have no messages and papers from the chair. Does the city attorney have any remarks?
No remarks.
All right. Any propositions or remarks from the commission? None? We are adjourned.